Welcome to Let's Talk About It. I'm Sheena.
And I'm Tamara.
And today we are talking about the myth that lesbian couples can't last. That relationships between two women are just not going to stand the test of time. I believe that this is total BS.
Mm-hmm.
And we're sitting on, many years of happy...
12 years, it's a dozen.
For real?
I think so.
That is so cool. Yay us. Give me 5. Yes. And I know other lesbian couples who have been together forever as well.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us why this myth exists.
Well, I think this myth exists because divorce rates among lesbian women are generally higher than with some other couples. So depending on which country you're in, it's higher than gay men, and in some countries it's higher than straight couples.
Really?
It is.
But what's the marriage rate like?
It's higher for lesbians.
You see. So this is the rub.
This is the rub, okay. So, I think we need to unpack this because a lot of stereotypes about lesbians come into play here. All the stereotypes that we have seen from previous episodes...
Like the U-Haul syndrome.
Yep, have a kernel of truth.
Okay.
So first off, this isn't a lesbian myth, this is just a statistic. In the US, women ask for divorce 2/3 of the time in a straight relationship. Okay. Now, if you double the amount of women in the relationship,
okay,
that's going to increase. What I have to say about this is that divorce is not a bad thing. If you're in a crappy relationship, you shouldn't be together. So I think we need to get past the misnomer that divorce is bad.
Right.
Okay, because I think it puts a little bit of
a stigma on the whole thing.
A stigma on the person for being divorced, on lesbians for getting divorced more. But should anyone stay in a crappy relationship?
No.
Women tend to know what they want in a relationship, and that's why they ask for divorce more often. Okay, so that's part one.
But we also get married faster or more frequently.
Yes. When lesbians fall in love, they fall hard, they fall fast. Okay, which is the U-Haul phenomenon.
Yes.
Okay, so you
got two women with nice, happy, lovey-dovey hormones going.
And nesting needs.
And of course, you're going to want to get together and have a happy ever after.
So, because of all of that, lesbians do tend to move in together faster. So they have what looks like deep relationships much quicker than the average straight couple or gay male couple.
Because there aren't men holding back the emotional...
Well, not just that. Well, it's not just about that. It's just that physically or to the outward eye, their relationship looks deeper than it actually is. Okay, so for a heterosexual couple, they might date for a year or two or whatever, but both living in their own places or living with parents or whatever it may be. So they go to third-party places on dates, right? They might sleep over at each other's places every now and then, but that's the relationship. So you have a thought about what this relationship is. It's serious, but maybe not that serious since they don't live together. Now you have a lesbian couple who after a week move in with each other. This feels already, to the outward eye, like a much more serious relationship. You're moved in together. Something that is meant to last longer. Okay. But because this relationship is basically built on oxytocin, and that honeymoon phase, it actually isn't a deep relationship yet. They don't know each other. The relationship is just as deep as those other ones, but because of how proximal they are to each other, it seems like a much more serious relationship. So it seems like serious lesbian relationships don't last as long.
Hence the myth. So because we have this tendency to move in together, it seems like we're actually in a deeper relationship or at a stage where a heterosexual couple might only get there after a year when we're much faster.
Exactly. So
I see. And so the myth is perpetuated because outward appearances are that it's, it is deeper, but it isn't actually
exactly
deeper.
And because of this U-Haul phenomenon, we're probably also getting married faster before you're actually ready to get married.
Right.
So the whole thing it's a bit of a domino effect.
Okay.
This is, of course, all supposition, but I think it's a good theory.
Do you think that women get more oxytocin flooding them during the romantic stage than men?
Possibly. It possibly also affects women differently. Like, I think oxytocin in women creates a sort of very nurturing, wanting to create stability vibe, whereas in men it might be more of a
I need to
protect, mate, whatever it is. But like with women, it's much more. Again, this whole
like make a home,
make a home, nest,
family.
yes, be stable forever, and even if like there's nothing else to substantiate that relationship. I mean, hormones are powerful.
Oh,
We know that.
We know that. Every month we know that.
So, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not a good thing to listen to like sad podcasts, by Andy Marquette and Lise McTagg when one is PMSing.
No, at least not without a lot of chocolate.
No, I just listened to it. I was crying because I was like, oh my god, this is so sad. This is so true.
Andy and Lise, you made Sheena cry.
Yeah, it was very sad.
Okay. Another reason why lesbian relationships maybe don't stand the test of time is due to lack of support. Especially in places where homosexual marriages aren't, or partnerships, or whatever you want to call it, are seen as the norm. There's just no support structure for the couple.
Well, if you think about how recently most of the world got legal.
Yes.
I mean, it hasn't given enough time yet for everybody to come to terms with same-sex marriage, never mind the support around it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's things from basically your family supporting the relationship. Mm-hmm. Are there therapists that can help you through the relationship if you're going through a tough time?
And I suspect that a couple, a therapist that's dealing with a same-sex couple would need slightly different skills to a heterosexual couple.
Possibly.
Because I think there's other things going on, like the external influences of the pressure of just being a gay couple in society.
Mm. Even stuff like a supportive community. So, for some people, like religion might be important, and that sometimes disappears completely, because also in a lot of religions, when you're getting married, there's a lot of support before you get married. There's courses, there's all sorts of things that help you prepare for it. Those things might not necessarily be available to same-sex couples.
It's true. I mean, before we got married, the guy who was marrying us sat us down and had a whole powwow with us about what our expectations were as a married couple and how to treat each other, basically.
And like, not everyone gets that. So, it's probably more difficult. And then also something that comes to mind is your expectations of each other in the relationship, just in terms of things like if you were brought up by heterosexual parents and all you had to model your life on is a heterosexual marriage with very traditional roles, and now you're in a same-sex marriage, what happens in your own marriage?
Well, that's actually a really, really good point.
Like, you're probably going to struggle because, if you're two women and you're both, say, very femme or whatever, like, who's going to deal with the slightly more masculine stuff?
I don't even know if it's as simple as that, but say mom is traditionally the one that cooks, and dad is traditionally the one that sits in front of the TV and reads his newspaper, and then you're two women. I don't know, does one of you then cook, or do you share the relationship, the cooking? Or...
Yeah, of course all of this comes down to, the actual individual and what they like to do, but it may be something that for some couples creates a very difficult, stressful area of life.
Right, and as much as lesbians like to talk about their feelings, I don't think most of humanity is equipped with the right language and the right capabilities to not just say how they're feeling and express it, but to understand it.
I'm sure.
And to understand enough to be able to comprehend what the other person is saying.
And while we're talking about feelings, what comes to mind is PMS. So now you have a couple where both women are probably going through this every single month. So how does that impact on a relationship? It can be very stressful. So it's developing ways of coping with this and being open with each other and being able to deal with this.
And let's also not forget that women earn less.
Yes.
So the couple, regardless of if you're married in community or property or not, as a couple, you are going to be earning less than if you were in a heterosexual relationship, and maybe you aren't, because the financial stresses are there. Do you know what I mean? So maybe you're not coping as well.
No, that's an excellent point. Money is a huge stressor. Money is a huge problem. Well, it's one of the biggest reasons so many people get divorced.
Yep.
Okay, so do lesbian relationships last?
I don't know.
I think they can.
I think they absolutely can. I don't think there's any reason that they can't. You know what I mean? But I don't necessarily think that relationships that aren't meant to last should last.
But I think as lesbians, we need to think very carefully and with our brains and not so much with our hormones before we go into relationships.
Yeah, I want to see you doing that. Well, actually, that's not true. You did that. You wouldn't marry me. You wouldn't even move in with me for the first year. It was very sad.
I know, I'm such a bad.
Oh, well, that answers the question as to who's the man in the relationship.
Okay, but seriously, I do think lesbian relationships can last, but I think that they require some special work.
I think if you're going to get married, go to a counsellor and figure out how to talk to one another in a way that you can express feelings, because when it gets down to it and you're having money problems and you're having, whatever stresses you're having, at that point is the wrong time to learn the language.
Mm-hmm. And remember, if your relationship is super stressful before you get married, marriage is just going to amp it up. If you know nothing about each other, take time to get to know each other. If you don't know whether a person wants to have children, what their stance is on having a dog sleep on the bed, you're not ready to get married.
What is your stance on having a dog sleep on the bed?
Not a fan. Not at night. They can sleep on the bed during the day, but not at night when you're trying to sleep.
See, this is why we're meant for each other. I'm Sheena.
And I'm Tamara, and we both wish everyone luck in their relationships.
Yes, and long and happy ever afters. Yes. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and come and join us on Facebook at the Lesbian Talk Show chat group. You can find this and more exciting podcasts on the Lesbian Talk Show. That's a podcast channel where we have 7 different shows every week. That's 1 new show a day. Isn't that exciting, Tamara?
Super exciting.
Alright, we'll catch you next week.
Bye.